Now, despite government implementing a 3% public servants' wage increase, trade union federations are very unhappy. COSATU, SAFTU and FEDUSA are going to march to Treasury next week to demand a 10% pay hike. Last week, the Public Servants Association took to the streets following a deadlock in wage negotiations. The unions have also voiced their anger over utterances by Finance Minister Moloko Moloto. He announced during his midterm budget that government had, quote, assisted public servants by approving the 3% increase. They find that amount an insult. Our reporter Moloko Moloto has been following the story. Joins me now for an update. So, Moloko, last week it was PSA. Now we're seeing COSATU and SAFTU and FEDUSA. I think SAFTU was also part of the PSA, if I'm not mistaken, last week. This is going to be huge then, isn't it? Because this is the bulk of public servants. Am I right?
Hello, Sally Badet. Indeed, you're very correct. These three federations actually represent the majority of the 1.3 million civil servants in South Africa. So should they decide to down tools, they will, without a doubt, have a negative impact. So today, when they were briefing the media, they said that on Tuesday next week they will be embarking on that protest march to the Department, National Treasury in Pretoria, but in the other provinces as well, there will be similar protests. In the main, really, they are saying this is a warning shot. They are basically saying to government that the cost of living is just too much, and you would recall that the government has today, as we speak, paid the 3% offer. Of course, their salaries were paid on the 15th as government officials, but today government paid that 3% increase and also the 1,000 rand non-pensionable gratuity, which it will pay until the end of March. And also for those who are eligible, they were paid the progression increase of 1.5%. But the workers are saying that they actually want to bring public service to a standstill come Tuesday, and they don't care. They would even want the so-called essential workers like the police, the nurses, to come and join them.
That's interesting. So it's a similar one-day approach as we saw with the PSA, but it's likely to be on a much larger scale. Of course, let's not forget the teachers are not involved. They have already agreed, signed. They're not going to be disrupting the matric exam. So I think any matrics watching or their parents can breathe a bit of a sigh of relief. But just talk to me a little bit more about what we could expect on Tuesday.
So on Tuesday, they obviously, I suppose, will be coming from various districts or regions. And I suppose in Gauteng, majority of those who will be going to Pretoria will be coming from this province. And they say provinces will also hold similar marches. But they are saying that it will depend on what government does after that. Should government not intend to bring them to the negotiating tables and try to negotiate to reach them, they are going to now work on a fully blown strike. But let's also remember, Sally, that what, among other things, besides the money, they are also saying that government must actually hire more frontline workers, more police, more teachers, more nurses, because they are saying there's just too much work and fewer workers. But also they are saying that as government workers, they want government to at least fund or create a bursary scheme for their children, because they don't qualify for NSFAS and they don't earn enough to send them to institutions of higher learning. And they also want a 2,500 rand monthly housing allowance. And government has said, look, we cannot afford those. Even that 10% increase, which they had initially demanded, after the collapse of the negotiations, you would recall, before the collapse, I should say, the unions had actually come down from 10% to, some were saying 6.5%, others were saying 8%. Now that the talks have collapsed, the unions, all of them, are saying they have gone back to 10%. And government is saying that will cost about 49 billion rand money, which it doesn't have. But let's listen to the union leaders today when they were expressing disquiet over the you would recall last week or 3 weeks back when the Minister of Finance, Kodongwana, when he was delivering the medium-term budget policy statement, he was saying, essentially saying we have assisted them, we are there for them, and they are really not happy with that particular language by the minister. Let's listen to them.
We will march on the 22nd of November to the offices of National Treasury in Pretoria as our main march, which will be complemented by similar joint programs in all other provinces, the other 8 provinces. Further to that, we will be continuing with the picket demonstration across critical service centers like public hospitals, the ports, and government institutions. Our workplaces will become points of struggle until government comes to its senses.
Yeah, and as you said, this is a warning shot. Tuesday, this is what it's going to be like if we go on a full-blown strike. You explaining, of course, the government has unilaterally imposed a 3% increase, which has really annoyed the unions. Is there anything being discussed at the negotiating table? Is there anything to negotiate?
Well, at this point in time, Sally, the talks have collapsed. It seems there are no talks between the unions and government. That is why they are saying it's now back to 10%, which government had said they can afford. But interestingly, as much as you're going to have the police pop crew obviously being there, the South African Policing Union also go on that particular strike or stay away or whatever, or if they decide to go on a fully blown strike, we'll have to wait and see whether the police and the nurses will join in. Interestingly, the teachers, South African Democratic Teachers Union specifically, they are saying that we are not happy with this 3% increase by government, but we have accepted it anyway. And that, as you said, the matriculants and even internal learners, people who are writing exams, at least they will know that they will not be interrupted going forward. Yeah,
as you say, the teachers are not happy, but they are not going to be involved in this. Thank you so much for that update. That, of course, is Moloko Moloto.